Hello, this time we will talk about the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which was a trigger of the tension between North and South, which finally led to the Civil War of 1861 under the Lincoln administration. So, the Kansas-Nebraska Act is all about the popular sovereignty. So what popular sovereignty is the notion that people of that area should choose the destiny of that area. So what it means in this situation is that during this time, Missouri, which was a slave state, and Iowa, which was a free state, each had an area that was on the brink of its population reaching 60,000. So under the Northwest Ordinance, if an area had over 60,000 people, they fulfilled the condition to become a new state. So this area, which was Nebraska, and this area, which was Kansas, each were preparing to make a vote between those people of the people who are living in each area of choosing whether each state will be a free state or a slave state. So based on the popular sovereignty, which happened inside Kansas, was that, first of all, Nebraska held the vote before Kansas did. And naturally, since Nebraska had Iowa next to its area, a lot of people who thought that slavery is not right were living inside Nebraska. So as a result, Nebraska became a free state. So after making Nebraska a free state, people of Nebraska started to think that if they made Nebraska a free state, why not Kansas? So people of Nebraska started moving into Kansas and lived there for a month to vote for Kansas as a free state. So people of Missouri noticed this, and they also started moving into Kansas. So people who advocated for slavery and against slavery started fighting inside the Kansas, and there are a lot of riots and fights between anti-slavery and pro-slavery inside Kansas. So that was why a name called Bleeding Kansas was made during this time. So this peak of tension between North and South and the pro-slavery and anti-slavery was marked by the Potawatomi Massacre. So what happened in Potawatomi Creek was that a person called John Brown, who was an active abolitionist, he gathered his crew and went up to the Potawatomi Creek to kill everyone who lived in that creek, because that creek was famous for people who were advocating for slavery. So John Brown went up to the Potawatomi Creek and then killed everyone who lived there and then cut their bodies into pieces. So this was kind of a sensational event during this time and kind of marked the peak of the tension between the people who advocated for slavery and against slavery. So after all these events, Kansas held a vote. But what the pro-slavery people did was that people of the Kansas made their voting ballot between yes slavery and no more expansion of slavery rather than banning slavery. So after noticing this, people who advocated against slavery boycotted the vote, and naturally, Kansas also became a slave state next to Missouri. After becoming a slave state, people who were pro-slavery side made a constitution declaring Kansas as a slave state, and that was called the Lecompton Constitution. So after this tension between the North and South, this tension lasted until 1860s and eventually led to civil war between the Union and the Southern Confederacy. So this was a Kansas-Nebraska Act, which was the start of the road to Civil War.